I think it's important when we're talking about Palestine to remember that Palestinians are more than just numbers. We see this huge number of how many Palestinians have been bombed, murdered, martyred, but I think it's really important to highlight who these people are. So I'm going to start doing that. Today I will be talking about Dr. Arij. She is 25 years old. She was a dentist and a bride. Her cousin in an Instagram post wrote about how loving and caring she was and how excited about life she was. She dreamt of opening up her own clinic. She wanted to travel to reunite with her brother who she hadn't seen in years. She even inspired 2 of her nieces to go on the same path to become a dentist. When the bombing started, she sent her fiancé a picture of her in her wedding dress and said, "I don't know if I'll be able to wear this again." Her last Facebook post was, "Heaven is closer than Sinai." And for those who know how close Sinai and Gaza are, it's heartbreaking. She was murdered by Israeli airstrikes as she was comforting her nieces. She was killed with 15 members of her immediate family, the youngest being 5 years old. Israel took away an amazing woman who was getting ready for her wedding, who was a joy to be around.
Countries in the world. While you'll never hear anyone in the mainstream media say this, this is actually one of the most important things you need to understand if you want to know what's happening right now. From its inception, the whole idea of Israel as a country was based on racism. Israel was conceived as a Jewish state, and while there's nothing wrong in principle with Jews having a homeland, the problem is that they insisted that that homeland had to be in Palestine, which already belonged to someone, the Palestinians. The slogan of Israel's founders was "a land for a people without a land." But deep down, they all knew that the only way to have a Jewish majority in Palestine, an Arab country, was to expel the Arabs. One of the founders of Israel, Yosef Weitz, wrote, "There's no room in the country for both peoples. There's no way but to transfer the Arabs from here to neighboring countries." Israel was quite literally founded by expelling and massacring hundreds of thousands of Arabs in a years-long process called the Nakba. And when you found a country based on racial exclusion, you're gonna get a culture that fosters and celebrates racial exclusion. Because countries that commit terrible atrocities rarely acknowledge committing those atrocities. And the presence of Palestinians who remained in Palestine became a constant reminder, not only of the violence that founded Israel, but of the constantly looming threat that they might come back and try to reclaim their land. Every day you can find videos coming out of Israel showing Israelis calling for all Arabs to die, insulting the Prophet Muhammad, desecrating mosques, spitting on Christians, mocking and celebrating the murder of Palestinians, committing violent hate crimes against Palestinians, watching Gaza get carpet bombed from a cliffside for entertainment. But don't just go off these anecdotes. Let's look at some of the polls. One poll found that 2/3 of Israeli teens believe Arabs to be less intelligent, uncultured, and violent. It also found that 50% of Israelis wouldn't live in the same building as Arabs, wouldn't befriend Arabs, wouldn't let their children befriend Arabs, and wouldn't let Arabs into their homes. Another poll found that 60% of Israeli Jews want segregation from Arabs. Another poll found that half of Israeli Jews agree with the statement, "Most Jews are better than most non-Jews because they were born Jews." The poll also found that 88% of Israeli Jews would be disturbed if their son befriended an Arab girl, and 90% would be disturbed if their daughter befriended an Arab boy. This poll found that about half of Israeli high schoolers don't think Arabs should have the right to vote. Another poll showed that almost half of Israeli Jews don't want Arabs teaching their kids. Not only are these views widely held in Israeli society, they're also represented in government, which codifies these sentiments into law. For example, Israel has a law that says if an Israeli marries a Palestinian, or someone from several other regional Arab states, that person isn't allowed to move in with said Israeli. This law was passed in 2003, but it's been renewed every single year since. Israel also doesn't allow interreligious marriage to be performed in the country, which is meant to deter Jews from marrying non-Jews. In 2018, Israel passed the nation-state law, a law which has constitutional status, which says the right to exercise national self-determination, i.e. have rights, is the exclusive right of Jews, no one else. There's also the Nakba law, which makes it illegal to acknowledge the Nakba, the expulsions of Palestinians that were needed to found Israel. This would be like passing a law to make it illegal to talk about indigenous genocide or slavery in America. There's also the Admissions Committee law, which basically allows towns to operate panels that deny applications for entry based on socio-cultural compatibility, which essentially just legalizes racist housing discrimination. In Israel, advocating genocide of Palestinians doesn't hurt your chances of holding a high position in government. And in fact, in many cases, it helps. In 2014, Israeli lawmaker Ayelet Shaked wrote an unhinged rant on Facebook, calling all Palestinians enemy combatants and saying their mothers should be killed for giving birth to, quote, little snakes. The next year, she was appointed Minister of Justice by Benjamin Netanyahu. Itamar Ben-Gvir, a lifelong admirer of Meir Kahane, an Arab exterminationist, a man who praised a Jewish settler who killed a Palestinian for throwing a rock at him, a man who was famously acquitted after being criminally charged for chanting death to Arabs, is Israel's current Minister of National Security. He's not some fringe figure either. He's one of the most popular politicians in Israel right now. In the last few days, Israel's been working hard to cast itself as the victim of hatred, the victim of terrorism, the victim of anti-Semitism, that they have no choice but to lay siege to Gaza. But underneath this carefully concocted victim complex is a racist, Jewish supremacist state that's been trying to finish the job that the Nakba started for decades. And really, this shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone. After all, they're literally cutting off water and electricity to a city of 2 million people right now. Their generals talk openly about flattening Gaza and killing the animals, meaning Palestinians. It's obvious their goal is genocide.
Anderson Cooper interviews a 22-year-old Palestinian girl named Dunya who lives in Gaza and is, of course, terrified. And she talks about her dreams and what she would like in this life. And wait till you get to the last few seconds.
Somebody's sitting in the United States watching this, or sitting in their home in France watching this. What do you want them to know about what has happened in your town? What has happened to you?
All I want them to know that there are civilians, people who wish to live a normal, peaceful life, to feel safe, because we are human, and all we want is to have our rights and live peacefully. As a woman and as a girl, all I want in this life to educate and to graduate and have a job and have a family. This is all I want, and I want them to know that there's a lot of people here, and I'm representing every person here, every civilian, that we want our basic, simple rights and to feel safe. And yeah, that's it.
You want what we all want.
Yeah, and you have it, and we don't.
Palestinians are racist to Black people. And if you look around, it's Black people that are out there advocating for the rights of Palestinians. This should be a lesson for Palestinians and the Arab community in general, to stop being racist towards Black people. Because when shit hits the fan, it's Black people that come out and they fight for the oppressed. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُوا مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Allah says He will not change a people until they change themselves. So if you're there making dua, saying, oh Allah, why are the Israeli soldiers racist to the Arabs and they're doing all of these things to the Palestinian people, and you can't understand why this is happening, then look within yourself. You as an Arab, you as a Palestinian, you in your own family, how many of you are racist to people that are Black Palestinians? Even broader Muslim communities, from Pakistani communities to Bangladeshi communities, Moroccan, Libyan communities, the Gulf communities. How many people say we are Muslim, and in the same breath, they mistreat other Muslims because of their skin color or their country of origin?
News from Gaza, nearly 2 a.m. on October 21st. A lot has gone on before this early morning, and we have a lot to cover, but we're going to start with what's going on as we speak. from a Telegram channel I just started following called Gaza Now. They have an English and an Arabic Telegram channel. This was 10 minutes ago. An urgent statement from the UN RWA schools. The Israeli occupation requested the evacuation of 5 schools crowded with displaced persons in Gaza City in preparation for their bombing. 5 schools, all with displaced people who lost their homes in bombings. This came in 1 minute ago. Al-Qassam publishes scenes. Al-Qassam is a division of Hamas. Al-Qassam publishes scenes from the release of 2 American detainees for humanitarian reasons yesterday evening, Friday, in response to Qatari efforts. We'll go over that story right now since it came up. Breaking from martyr Izz al-Din al-Qassam Brigade's military spokesman Abu Obaida. In response to Qatari efforts, al-Qassam Brigades released 2 American citizens, a mother and her daughter, for humanitarian reasons, and to prove to the American people and the world that the claims made by Biden and his fascist administration are false and baseless. If you've seen the video I posted overnight, you'll know that Biden visited the day after the Al-Mamadani Hospital massacre. Biden still continued to visit Tel Aviv and support unconditionally Israel. Biden also made a speech in that where, one, he said, if there were not an Israel, we'd have to create one. He said that shit again. And he reiterated the claim that his own White House spokespeople had to walk back after he first said it. The quote about the 40 babies and about the mass R word with women. That proven lie. He said that again in Tel Aviv. He said that he saw videos and all this shit. So Al-Qassam Brigade said, okay, well, here's a woman and her child and you can have them back, and they are unharmed. So that happened. Back to the big news today and the big worry. Just last night, Palestine time. So that's about 5 hours ago now. All this info's come from Resistance News Network on Telegram. Palestinian Red Crescent, which is the ambulance and first aid responders. Palestinian Red Crescent report that its staff at Al-Quds Hospital in Gaza were contacted by occupation authorities and ordered to evacuate under threat of airstrikes. The hospital currently houses 400 medical patients and over 12,000 displaced Palestinians. And now a video of the conditions in the Al-Quds Hospital 4 hours ago. There is people everywhere. And it reads, scenes from Al-Quds Hospital in Gaza, which houses 400 patients and over 12,000 displaced Palestinians. About an hour ago, the IOF demanded everyone leave and threatened to bomb the hospital, as it has done with 22 other hospitals since October 7th. Hospitals are overcrowded and running out of fuel due to the IOF aggression. The Ministry of Health confirmed earlier today that 7 hospitals are out of service. Those that are operating are performing surgeries without anesthesia. If you remember Dr. Ghassan Abu Sita, he is the one that held the press conference after the Al-Mamadani Hospital massacre, surrounded by bodies. So 8 hours ago, Al-Quds News Network on Telegram reported that as medical supplies run out in hospitals across Gaza, Surgeon Ghassan Abu Sita says he has resorted to using vinegar from the corner shop to treat bacterial wounds to prevent infection. And footage from Al-Quds Hospital from the Red Crescent at 9:30 p.m. Friday night. The director said, "We took a decision not to evacuate Al-Quds Hospital in Gaza. Israeli enemy forces have issued a threat for evacuation despite currently housing over 400 patients and 12,000 displaced civilians." And the thing is, where would they go? Because the hospitals are overcrowded. Everyone is on the floor in these videos. There's no water. They don't even have the medicines that are needed. They're operating with mobile phone flashlights. Their disinfectant is vinegar. They don't have anesthesia. They don't have food. They don't have water. So you want a bunch of sick and injured people to evacuate to where? That's the thing, is there is nowhere to go. There is nowhere. The cruelty is the point. Friday night, so now that is about 4 hours ago, former Prime Minister Ehud Barak to CBC. "We have taken the decision to destroy Al-Shifa Hospital, and we will."
I want to show you guys this clip from 2020.
מי שיחרים אותנו מוחרם בעצמו. בשנים האחרונות קידמנו בארצות הברית, ויש כבר ברוב המדינות שם חוקים שמי שמחרים את ישראל נענש בעצמו. אז זה לא יעזור להם, אנחנו לא מתרגשים מזה, ואנחנו נלחמים בזה.
He's literally saying that he's going to kill Palestinians indiscriminately, and he's already got the US on his side. so boycott if you want, it doesn't fucking matter. That's insane. War crimes. War crimes, war crimes, war crimes. Also, Joseph, the fuck are you doing? If I hear you say we one more goddamn time, I swear to God, you are this fucking close, my guy. This fucking close. $100 billion goddamn dollars? Joseph? Joseph! Stop.
Thank you, Shun, President. I voted against this motion after a week of horror in Gaza and the EU diving in head first, draping our parliament in the Israeli flag, aiding and abetting in war crimes, including the bombing of a hospital, and still we find it impossible to say that Palestinian lives matter. We're still privileging one category of victims over another. We talk about the humanitarian situation in Gaza, but why is there a humanitarian crisis? Is it a natural disaster? Who cut off the water, fuel and electricity? Are we not sure? Who is bombing Palestinian civilians? Do we not know? Do you think we could mention it? There is a crime unfolding in Gaza now, such as we have not seen since the 1940s, and we are in it up to our necks. We're watching Israel murder Palestinian civilians and preparing to drive millions of them into the Sinai Desert to annex and colonise their land. It's another Nakba. It's a crime against humanity, not a humanitarian crisis. The EU will never live down this shame. Long live Palestine, long live Gaza.
Israeli politician blows up after colleagues said that all children are equal.
ילד הוא ילד, אם הוא ביישובי העוטף או בעזה עצמה. האוכלוסייה הערבית רואים וחווים את הכאב האנושי.
Then she made a more malicious statement.
אז אין סימטריה, הילדים בעזה הביאו על עצמם את זה. אנחנו עם שוחר שלום, עם חפץ חיים. אין סימטריה.
How is it possible to talk about peace and be so cruel at the same time?